All right, let's continue. Gingerbread Girl. This is the seventh time we've read, and it's going to get pretty intense. Hopefully, we had that discussion about what has already happened. So let's get right into it. Boom, there we go. And it was the highlighted part, as usual, that we stopped at. I have maybe 15 minutes, she said to the empty room. Or perhaps it was to the blood stain on the floor she was talking to. He hadn't gagged her, at least. Why bother? There'd be no one to hear her scream, not in this ugly, boxy concrete fortress. She thought she could have stood in the middle of the road, screaming at the top of her lungs, and still no one would have heard her. Right now, even the Mexican groundkeepers would be undercover, sitting in the cabs of their trucks, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes. Okay, there was only one time, we should probably mention this, but she has met some other people. And they even know her name. Like, she's talked to them. They do not speak a lot of English, but if you remember when she runs by, sometimes they do shout, "Yo, Em." So they know her name at least. Just keep that in mind. 15 minutes at the most. Yes, probably. Then Pickering would come back and blank her, and as he had been planning to blank Nicole, after that he would kill her, as he had already killed Nicole. Her and about how many other nieces. Em didn't know. She felt certain this was not, as Rusty Jackson might have said, his first rodeo. 15 minutes, maybe just 10. She looked down at her feet. They weren't duct taped to the floor. The feet of the chair were. Still, you're a runner. Damn right you are. Look at those legs. Remember, that's what he said to her? They were good legs, all right. She hadn't needed anyone to kiss them or make her aware of it, especially not a lunatic like Pickering. She didn't even know if they were good in the sense of being beautiful, but in utilitarian terms, right at the top here, they were very good. Utilitarian, that is a good word to know. You might have seen the definition flash by really quickly, but utilitarian, it just means, I think of it as like, it starts with a U. It just means they are useful. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be flashy. It gets the job done. So like, I have a kind of a bigger yard. I wish I had a riding lawnmower. It would make my job easier. It takes me probably 45 minutes on a good day, if I don't have to bag or whatever to do my lawn. I have a very utilitarian lawnmower. It's not flashy. It's a push mower. It gets the job done. It starts every time. So you might have like a utilitarian car. It's not a Ferrari, not a Ferrari, but it gets you to point A, from point A to point B. It'll get you there. It's utilitarian. Nothing wrong with utilitarian. It's just not going to be flashy. Okay. So maybe her legs, she's been training for this for a while. They might help her get the job done. This might have been part of the recovery process. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is Pickering. We can pause it here. There are some things that make me think that he's killed before. And then there's some other things that make me think he hasn't. So if we pause here, hopefully I didn't give my like pros and cons for like, is this something new to him? Okay, let's talk about how maybe this is the first time he has killed. He botched it up pretty badly with Nicole, if that's her real name. But, it was not neat. There was a lot of like cleanup. It was messy. He's got her in the trunk, all that stuff. Maybe he just thought, whatever, nobody's around here anyways. The other thing is that kitchen. We'll learn more about that kitchen. Maybe this helps that I've read ahead, but like, if you are going to do something messy in there, like kill, it is a pretty good way to like clean up. There won't be a lot of mess. Like, if you have a couch, think about getting stains out of a couch, nearly impossible. In this sort of kitchen where everything's like flat and you can wipe it up easily, I don't know. I mean, they could totally, like, he could, if he does kill, I would think the best place would be the boat, right? And then just dump the bodies out of the boat. So maybe it happened too quickly for him. Maybe he doesn't usually kill until the boat or something. I don't know. Your thoughts? Not a very nice thing to think about, but you know, that's what I love about reading is like we don't have to be in that situation, but we can put ourselves in there. Like, okay, what would I do? What should I do? That kind of stuff. My wife loves like Dateline, all those kind of crime shows. She says it's gonna, help me if I ever need it. Hopefully, you never need this stuff. Is so rare, but oh my gosh, you could definitely read this or watch this on some reality, not reality TV show, but like a crime show. Right, back to this. So at least her legs are utilitarian. They are going to get the job done. They had carried her a long way since the morning she and Henry had found Amy dead in her crib. Pickering clearly had great faith in the powers of duct tape and had probably seen it employed by dozens of psycho killers and dozens of movies, and none of his nieces has ever given him any cause to its efficacy, how something works, if it's efficient. Maybe because he hadn't given them a chance. Maybe because they were too frightened. But maybe, especially on a wet day, in an unaired house, so damp she could smell the mildew. So think of that. Florida, excuse me. Florida is very humid, very wet. You see where this is going, maybe? Duct tape. Any ideas? So she can smell the mildew. Em leaned forward right in the middle, as far as the corsets binding her would allow, and she gradually began to flex the muscles of her thighs and calves. Those new runner muscles the lunatic had so admired. First, just a little flex, and then up to half. She was approaching full flex and started to lose hope when she heard a sucking sound. It was low. Excuse me. It was low at first, barely more than a wish, but it got louder. Top of the next page here. The tape had been wrapped and then rewrapped in crisscrossing layers. It was hellishly strong, but it was pulling free of the floor just the same, but slowly. Dear God, so slowly. She relaxed, breathing hard, sweat now breaking on her forehead, under her arms, between her. I don't want to say that word, even though it's not a swear word. She wanted to go again at once, but her experience running the Cleveland South track told her she must wait and let her rapidly pumping heart flush the lactic acid from her muscles. Her next effort would generate less force and be less successful if she didn't. But it was hard. Waiting was hard. She had no idea how long he had been gone. There was a clock on the wall, a sunburst executed in stainless steel, like seemingly everything else in this horrible, heartless room, except the red maple chair she was bound to. But it had stopped at 9:15. Probably it was a battery job, and the battery had died. She tried to remain still until she had counted to 30 with a delightful Maisie after each number. All right, when I first read this, I was like, wow, what does that mean? So I don't know about you, but when I'm counting seconds in my head, I usually say 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. She must say 1 delightful Maisie, 2 delightful Maisies, just to help her keep those seconds closer to actual seconds. Right at the top, the delightful Maisie. And she could hold out to 17. Then she flexed again, pushing down with all her might. This time, the sucking sound was immediate and louder. She felt the chair begin to lift just a little, but it was definitely rising. Em strained her head. Em strained, comma. Em strained, her head thrown back, her teeth bared, fresh blood running down her chin from her swollen lip. The cords of her neck stood out. The sucking sound became louder, and now she also heard a low, ripping sound. Hot pain bloomed suddenly in her right calf, tightening it. For a moment, Em almost kept on straining. The stakes were high, after all. The stakes were her life. But then she relaxed within her bonds again, gasping for air and counting. 1 delightful Maisie, 2 delightful Maisie, 3. Probably because she could probably pull the chair free of the floor in spite of that warning tightness. She was almost sure she could. But if she did so at the expense of a Charlie horse and her right calf, she'd had him there before. A couple of occasions they hit so hard that the muscle had felt like stone rather than flesh. She would lose more time than she gained, and she would still be bound to the blanking chair, glued to the blanking chair. All right, real quick story here. Charlie horses. I'm not sure if anybody has ever had Charlie horses, but it's literally, you can, like, I sometimes get them in my calves, and you can see, like she said, the muscle there is just like hard stone, and they hurt pretty badly. So after football games in high school, I probably didn't eat enough before the game. Like, I often had Burger King before the game. I thought, oh, that'll really fuel my body. Oh man, back in high school, did the 2 for 2 meal. 2 burgers, 2 fries, $2. Where's that thing now? So a couple of us would go get Burger King before a game. I know, not the best. And I probably didn't drink enough water. And then seriously, like in my I don't want to brag too much, but like my senior year of high school, I never left the field. I was on like every single special teams, offense, defense, whatever. And then at the end, if it was an away game, I'd have to stand up in the back of the bus because I would get Charlie horses every time I sat down. One more story. My wife, because I don't know, like, I've heard eating bananas helps you avoid Charlie horses or whatever. Probably drinking water. Drinking water seems to fix everything. But another thing is, when my wife was like 9 months pregnant, huge, right? She was huge. And we're laying in bed, sleeping at like 1:30 in the morning, as one does at 1:30 in the morning, sleeping. She got a terrible Charlie horse and had to, like, the best thing you can do to get rid of the Charlie horse is to stretch. So if you're getting a Charlie horse in your calves, you want to make that muscle as long as possible. And so she was trying to, but like, she was so big, she was trying to get out of bed. I thought she was having the baby already, but it was just a Charlie horse. So if M gets a Charlie horse, I mean, it's all over. I don't know if, like I said, if you've ever gotten a bad Charlie horse, like, you feel it for days, your muscles sore. So hopefully that doesn't happen to her. Let's see, where were we at? We're kind of at the bottom of this page, right? I think we are. Line there. Okay. Charlie. No, top of this. Sorry, right here at the top, Charlie horse. She'd had him there before. We read that right there. She knew that on the clock wall was dead, but she looked at it anyways. It was a reflex. Still 9:15. Was he at the drawbridge yet? She had a sudden wild hope. Deke would blow the warning horn, scare him off. Could a thing like that happen? She thought it could. She thought Pickering was like a hyena, only dangerous when he was sure he had the upper hand, and probably like a hyena, wasn't able to imagine not having it. She listened. She heard thunder and steadily whooshing rain, but not the blare of an air horn mounted beside the drawbridge keeper's cabin. She tried pulling the chair off the floor again, top of the next column, and went catapulting face first into the stove when it came free, almost at once. She staggered, tottered, almost fell over, and backed against the formica-topped service island in the middle of the kitchen to keep from doing so. Her heart was now running so fast she couldn't detect the individual beats. It seemed to be just a steady, hard hum in her chest and high in her cheek below the points of her jaw. If she had fallen over, she would have been like a turtle lying on its back. There wouldn't have been a chance in the world of getting up again. It's all right, she thought. It didn't happen. No, she could see herself lying there all the same with hellish clarity. All right, good place for us to stop. I think we've read enough for the day. Oh, there we go. So I'm sure there's something that has to be done after this. I'm not sure. A Google form? Maybe on Chernobyl? I'm recording this like several days ahead. Maybe a quiz, maybe a study guide, something. I don't know. We'll figure it out after this. All right.